Matthew at Love Buddy. Let's see, how can I invite my friends here? Oh, here we go. I want to invite some friends. We've been having a discussion about Palestine and the horrible situation that those folks are in there. And different people have different opinions about this. And I respect everyone's opinion because, well, first of all, it's natural to respect other people's opinion. We should do that. But also, we want to, I don't know exactly what it's like to be in that situation. I know what it's like to be in situations that are not where I want to live, being in a place I don't want to be, and I know what that's like, but I don't know what it's like. I don't know exactly what's going on in Palestine. I don't know how hard it is to leave, or how maybe. I know these people, their backs are against the wall. The people in Palestine, their backs are against the wall. And that's something that is maybe the worst situation that someone can be in, where it's kill or be killed. So is there an option? Is there an opportunity for the Palestinians to be completely peaceful and give up all their rights and then get out of there and find a better life? Or does it make sense to fight to the death? I've been in situations when I've traveled in different countries to where my life was threatened. I've been surrounded by enemies before. And if I did retaliate, I would probably be killed. And some of that can happen. Some of that happened in Chicago, where just because I was white, I was in the wrong place because of the color of my skin. And my life was threatened. And I knew that if I did the wrong thing, said the wrong thing, if I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, I'd at least be robbed, minimum be robbed, but also very, very good chance that I'd be killed, especially if I retaliated, especially if I provoked, especially if I said the wrong thing. So situations in China where I've been attacked physically, situations where I was in Karachi, this is many years ago, and there was a terrorist act going on near the U.S. Wasn't the U.S. Embassy? It was near the U.S. Embassy. It was at a art center, maybe where art gallery kind of a place, and a bomb went off there. I was within 100 meters or so of that, and one of the activists tried to set my taxi cab on fire. So what I could have done was confronted this guy. He was by himself. I didn't see the other people with him. Maybe he was by himself. Maybe there were others nearby. If I confronted him, like in China or like in the south side of Chicago, he had friends nearby. Just because I was the wrong color, the wrong place, at the wrong time, I know that I would have been physically attacked and very possibly killed for retaliating. So let's look at the situation in Palestine. I know some people get out because I met people that are Palestinians that are living abroad, but I'm not sure how difficult that process is. I know that people want to hold on to their land. They say, this is my land. Personally, I don't think that people own land. I remember Chief Seattle, a very famous Native American that made a statement about, we don't own the land owns us. What do you mean? We die, we go back to the earth, we become bird food. And so how can a person say they own land? I think this concept of owning land is one that I really disagree with. But where I am right now, I don't want anybody moving me. I don't think it's right what Israel is doing, making people relocate. And the whole world knows that. Anybody who knows anything about the situation, they know it's ridiculous and that it's illegal. And the way they're treating the people in Palestine, it's a war crime. There's no question about it. And the Palestinians are fighting back. And then the Israelis, they make a really big deal about it, and they have the ear of the American people. Two reasons. The American people are in general ignorant about world affairs. They really don't look into it much. And the information that the American people do get is really colored, it's really controlled, and it's manipulated by the media. And the media is manipulated by Israel because of the alliances they have and because of the loyalty that Americans' government and the American press has to the state of Israel. They look at them after the Holocaust, they look at the state of Israel as the victim. And I don't see that at all. I see that there was peace before Israel started, and around the turn of the century, there was a Zionist plan that was hatched to come in and take over that area. They looked at some other areas as options. I think South America and Africa, and they looked at other areas as options, but then they decided to pick Palestine, most likely because of Jerusalem, the Holy Land. It makes a lot of sense because of the Jewish roots that the Zionists kind of hijacked. So a Zionist is not Jewish, a Jewish person is not Zionist, but there's a lot of overlap there. So anyway, the idea is that with Americans who have the money and have the weapons that support Israel, is that Israel is the innocent people that are being attacked by Palestine because of the rockets that are sent, or the suicide bombers that have blown themselves up in buses in Israel, killing innocent Israeli citizens, or in marketplaces and things like that. There has been some murder of innocent Israelis, definitely, by Palestinian extremists that choose violence as a way. Now, here's my point. I invited both Bernadette and Ken, because we're having this debate on a thread right now to this, but I guess they're not able to join in right now, not yet, or maybe they won't. But they're basically saying, look, these guys, their backs are against the wall. And what would you do in that situation? Would you just roll over and die? And then what about next time you're confronted? Yeah, it's a good point. If you are being confronted and you are being bullied, you need to stand up to the bully. How do you stand up to the bully? What's the most effective way to do that? Okay, so let's agree. I agree that it's important to stand up to bullies, because bullies, once they start bullying, everybody backs down. They get more arrogant, they become a bigger bully, they hurt more people, and they become more of a scourge, they become more of a big problem in society. So what we need to do as a community, as a world community, or as a local community, or as a state, we need to really limit the power of the bullies. We need to limit what they are given the freedom to do. What should bullies be allowed to do? I think they're not. I don't agree that bullies should be allowed to do anything that hurts anybody else. And this is what Israel as a bully has done, and they started it over there, because there was peace in Palestine for hundreds of years before the Zionists moved in and started terrorizing people. I mean, they blew up the King David Hotel because they wanted to frame the British for doing that. So these people that started Israel, remember, they're not Jews. It's not the same as a Jew. But the Zionists have tried to make it kind of the same thing. And look at the big victims who were from the Holocaust, which is a whole nother story. And so the people that have started Israel, that are continuing Israel and have this agenda, have really started the fight. And they're making sure that the Palestinians can't defend themselves. And they're blowing up hospitals, blowing up schools, using white phosphorus, proven to be a war crime, but they've never been accountable for that. They've never been held accountable, nor has America been accountable. I guess they're using it now in Yemen. The Saudis are using American white phosphorus on the civilian population there. So here's what happens. You don't get justice with people that are bullies that have all the power. You can't get it right away. The people that are clever, the people that manage themselves right. You think Netanyahu's going to go out there and fight combat hand to hand? You think he's going to do that? Netanyahu's never going to do that. Neither is Trump. Neither did Bush when Bush killed hundreds and hundreds of thousands of innocent Iraqis. for no reason, because there was never any WMD there and they had nothing to do with 9/11, but hundreds of thousands of people died. Is there some justice in that? And would it make sense as an Iraqi, looking back, to fight against the invading Americans? Does it make sense to get yourself killed over that? I don't think it makes sense. Now, on the other side of that, people do say, martyrdom, when you see something cruel being done, it opens people's eyes to the injustice. I think we're about 100 years beyond that in Palestine. I think if that was going to happen effectively, by being a martyr, by getting yourself shot or getting yourself killed or tortured by the invading Zionists, I think that if people were going to be moved by sympathy, that would have happened about 100 years ago. But it hasn't happened yet. Why? Because the people who are doing the murdering and killing are in true control, complete and absolute control of public opinion, of their allies. That's including the Saudis, who are supposed to be their enemies. And what about Egypt? Israel controls Egypt too, because Egypt has blocked off the border of Gaza. So when you look at this, when you're dealing with an enemy like this, that's this shrewd, that's this manipulative, that is this capable, and they make it look like they are the victims, how are you going to have the option? How are you going to have the option of winning against someone who's as strong as Israel is? They've got nuclear weapons, and we don't even know how many they've got. They've got the best military aircraft in the world because they take the best that the Americans make and then they modify it with secret modifications that Americans don't even know about. So do you think throwing a rock at a tank is gonna do something? Okay, I do that too. If I was overwhelmed and I knew I was gonna die, or I was in a situation, yeah, I understand the aggravation that people feel. People get aggravated, people get upset, their backs are against the wall, they want to fight back. Absolutely, and I'm going to be the first person to admit that I would do that too, and I'd probably be the first person to get myself killed out of an act of rage and frustration. But while I'm laying there dying, I would probably think, wow, what about my family? What about the life that I could have had, the future I could have had, if I had really thought more clearly about my actions? What's the most effective thing? If you really believe, which I really believe, looking at the facts as I have seen them, that Israel is in the wrong, that they're doing illegal things, that they're setting up settlements that everybody in the world condemns, that it's in other people's territory, that other people have been there and they've got the deeds to the property. But Israel's still taking over, and they're moving in more and more and dominating more and more in an illegal way, in a violent way. So I think that's pretty much been established. But what's also been established is when the people there fight back with rockets or rocks or whatever they do, it aggravates the situation and it makes things worse. Look at it this way, you're being arrested by the police. It doesn't matter if the police are right or wrong. It doesn't matter if you're a black guy that's being beat up by white cops. We know that a lot of that goes on. We know that that's unjust. And we know that because your brake light was out, there's no right for the police to beat the crap out of you. There's no justice in that. And we know that. But when you're in a situation, and I've seen this on video because they're sharing these videos all the time, do you want to fight back against the police? Sometimes, right. They beat the crap out of you no matter what you do. Because these guys are not just. These guys are bullies. A lot of them. Not all of them, but in some of the videos you see, they're obviously bullies. They're angry, they're violent, they've got a lot of hostility, and they beat the crap out of somebody who doesn't deserve it. Do you want to fight them? Do you want to spit in their face? Do you want to yell at them and just make things worse for yourself to where you could get killed? Does that make sense? Or do you want to find a way to get justice that you can get without getting yourself killed? Because to me, the end of any justice that you ever could have gotten ends when you get killed, or ends when you get the crap beat out of you and you're in ICU in a coma. So when it comes to the Palestinians, I completely understand their cause, and I completely understand, hey, this is my land. If I'm sitting in a restaurant, which I've had Chinese do this to me in Malaysia, kick me out of my seat because they want that space, because the Chinese culture dominates Malaysia. I lived there for years, and I can give you a lot of examples of that. What did I do? I moved. When I lived in a neighborhood, I lived in neighborhoods where I wasn't liked just because I wasn't a Muslim, just because I was a Westerner, just because my skin was white. I moved out of that neighborhood. Because what am I going to do? I'm going to stand up for what is right, and things are just going to escalate. I know what it's like, and you've seen it. Do you want things to escalate? That's like suicide. It's just you pay a big price, and it's not a strategic way to live your life. It's not a practical way to live your life. But once again, Palestinians have been victimized now. Palestinians have been being victimized for over 100 years, and kicked off their land and terrorized by the Zionist forces that are more sophisticated, more organized, better equipped, better trained, better weapons, better everything. And now the support of the American people, especially evangelical Christians, wholeheartedly support the Jews as God people, which they think Zionists are. They think Jews are Zionists and Zionists are Jews, and they're not necessarily the same thing. But as I said, there's a lot of overlap there. But there's a lot of Zionist evangelicals that support this because they believe they're God's people. So this idea about being God's people, or about having relatives living there before something like that, is such a ridiculous idea. I could kick anybody out of their house right now, anywhere in the world, and say, look, because I had a French relative, or I had a British relative, or I had a Canadian relative, or I had a German relative living there before, now that's my property? That's baloney. Where you are right now, that's your place, whether you're sitting in a restaurant or you're living in a house. Your family's been there, you're established, that's your place, and nobody has a right to kick you out of there. But that's actually what's going on. Once again, though, the situation here, I think, is very complicated, but I've come to my own conclusions, and I'm happy to be wrong. Any of the people who are listening to me right now, please make a comment if you disagree, make a comment if you agree, so we can have some interaction. I don't really need to be the only guy talking. It doesn't help me to hear myself talk, but maybe it's interesting for other people to hear some other opinions about that. I'd love to hear your opinions. So that's what I think. I think it's unjust. And it's not about Jewish people, although there's a lot of overlap. It's about the Zionist agenda. They've got two stripes on the Israeli flag, and those are the two rivers that their goal is to dominate that whole area and own that whole area. So that's their agenda. That's what they're doing, regardless of what they say. Look, if I'm a manipulative person, if I have a deceptive agenda, which the Israeli Defense Forces, or the Mossad has they state openly that, what is it? Rule by deception, something like that. What is it? It's the way these folks operate. That's what they do. The Mossad is the arm of the Zionist agenda. So you think people that say, look, we're deceptive, we're going to dominate, we're going to get what we want by lying and cheating, that's what we're going to do. Do you think you can trust what they have to say? Oh, the Palestinians, they're terrorizing us, and look at the rocket, look at the poor woman who's protecting her baby, and all this other propaganda. They're so effective at that. So they're best at the weapons, and they're best at controlling public opinion. And in this world, that lets you get away literally with murder. Thousands of innocent Palestinians trapped in an area that they can't leave or they can't get out of with very little warning. The warning's kind of a joke. It's almost like, oh, I'm going to punch you, and then hit somebody right away. What is that? What good is that warning? What good does that help? So anyway, there's a very manipulative method that they're going about, but at the same time, you want to deal with somebody who's got such incredibly superior sophistication with what they're doing. You want to come up right against them? It's beautiful to see some courageous things. What about the guy who stood in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square? I think that was 1989. And the tank would have run him over. Hundreds and hundreds of innocent Chinese peaceful protesters were murdered in that situation. And I lived there. I met them. I talked to the people that were there and saw that. There was no violence. It was peaceful. And they were just saying, look, we want more of their agenda was more of a transparent process. Government shut them down. They just shut them down. And I know a lot of people that protested. I talked to people who were lying down in the road to block the tanks to come in from Gombe, which is the northeastern part of the country, because the local Beijing cops and militia weren't going to kill their own people. Chinese people are extremely tribal and extremely racist like that. They're going to protect their own local people. But the people from the northeast, they don't care. They don't like the Beijingers that much. So they're coming down in tanks to take over this. So anyway, what I'm getting at is it's beautiful to see somebody be so courageous and stand in front of a tank like that. It's a beautiful, wonderful thing. And I think that it shows a lot of courage. But 99% of the time, people get killed when they do things like that. So there are legends made of this kind of courage. Who won in China? After his incredibly brave demonstration, yeah, that's great. It's kind of like saving a child from a burning car or from a burning building. Firemen are courageous and they're brave. But in this situation, when you're fighting against an evil, sophisticated, well-armed foe who's an expert at deception and controlling public opinion no matter what they do, what are you winning in that situation? Now, my philosophy is love. You know, this chat, and you know, what I do is a group called Love Buddy, lovebuddy.com, and then there's Love Buddy on Facebook, the Love Buddy page. And so I use love because I've been involved in a lot of different religions, and that didn't make sense to me. It didn't really work, but love makes sense to me. Love works. If you love yourself, you're not going to be a martyr. If you love your cause so much, if you love your country more than you love yourself, you're going to sacrifice your own life to go in and kill Iraqis. Or next, I think Trump is probably pretty much for sure. Trump is going to go in and kill a lot of innocent people in Iran, because that's the Zionist agenda. So that's the next big target. And I think that's Trump's, it's his to do. So whether it's before he gets reelected or not, it's despite public opinion, it's despite what the Iranians are actually doing. They're a threat to Zion's home base, Israel. And so Iran has got to go because they're getting more and more powerful. And Iran has been walking the line between, are we going to be completely confrontational or not? So they'll make comments and they'll do things, but they haven't had the power to really be completely confrontational. They're trying to build that up, probably underground, and probably nuclear, or probably with some sophisticated weapons, the best they can do, with Russia's help. So all hell is going to break loose over there, and who knows what's going to happen, but Iran is no threat at all to America. They're geographically, like Iraq was never any threat, like Libya was never any threat to America, like Venezuela is not any threat to America, right? But it's not about that. There's a whole other thing going on here. So anyway, long story short, the basic point I want to make, I'm not really having anybody share any comments, and that's okay. That's fine. So I'll just kind of wrap this thing up in the next couple minutes here. The point that I want to make, the point, my opinion, only my opinion. I'm not saying I'm completely right, and I'm not saying that I have nothing to learn here. I'm happy to learn. Please share, you know, enlighten me, and I'm not being facetious. I'm being completely honest, sincere from the heart. Please enlighten me. I don't think it's loving yourself. I don't think it's loving the world if you're fighting. And in what Palestine's doing, if they're sending rockets over, they're trying to fight. They're trying to fight back. And if I'm being held down by a bunch of bullies and getting beat up, I'm probably going to fight back. That makes a lot of sense. But if they're going to beat you up and kill you, and they have absolutely no sympathy, compassion in their heart for you, because they have an agenda. They've got those two blue lines on their flag. You're not going to get anywhere by fighting back. You're not going to get anywhere if you've been a victim for 100 years and the people in power aren't doing anything for you. So I don't know. I think that if I was in Palestine, well, I can't really say that. It's not really fair because I'm not there and I don't really know what it's like. I don't know just how developed that part of the world is. I've seen some nice buildings and I've seen some nightclubs even and things like that. I don't think they have pools, but I think they have kind of a normal area, part of life, part of the time, and then part of the time things just get totally blown up and demolished like they're living in a junkyard. So I'm not sure what all of Gaza is like and what it looks like to be there. So it's not fair for me to say that. But what I am saying is this, and I think this is fair to say, strategically, if you're in a fight, you don't provoke somebody who's going to murder you, who's going to kill you and wipe you out completely. You don't openly provoke them. Korea, maybe North Korea wants to fight with America. You think they're going to send a missile over? Think they're going to do that? No. As crazy as people think the leader is, he knows that it'll annihilate their country. And we can think of a million circumstances like that, where someone who's got superior firepower, you just kind of back off. Maybe you make a point in your mind, this guy's got to go down. This guy has to be disarmed. This guy has to be stopped. But I'm not going to do it by jumping in front of a bus. Because once I jump in front of the bus, I lose any opportunity of bringing that guy down, of seeing justice. So to me, strategically, it doesn't make sense to do that. I don't think that's right to do that. Because I believe in loving myself, loving the world, loving the situation. And as funny as it sounds to use this word love, but it's about being conscious, it's about being aware of the 66 qualities of love that are defined on the lovebuddy.com website. You know, part of it is being conscious, part of it is being aware, part of it is knowing what's going on and treating the situation with not only compassion for what's going on, compassion for your own self, your own health, your own life, your own family. And flipping out, like I admit I probably would do, I'd probably lose my rationality and end up getting myself killed. And just imagine losing my family because of my own stupid actions. I would hope that I wouldn't do that, because I would hope that I would sneak under the fence in the middle of the night and say, okay, I lost this battle, but I'm not going to lose the war. And from whatever safe place that I can find where I can raise my children in a safe and happy environment, that's where I'm going to plot, plan my strategy and find people that will be allies and build up strength and build up the ability to take down that bully, because he's still beating up other people. He's still killing and terrorizing other people. So by throwing myself in front of a bus, is that a good choice? Yeah, I have the right to do that. You always have the right to kill yourself. I think people own their own lives, regardless of how upset it's going to make the people around them. You own your own life. But is that right to do that? Does it make sense? Is it strategically clever? Like I said, you didn't see George Bush out there fighting on the lines. You won't see any of these shrewd politicians or these military leaders out there themselves. It's very, very rare. When they do that, it's legend that they do it. And when they do it, it's probably really safe. Because when you lose the top guy, then all the minions won't follow them, right? There's nobody to follow anymore, and they lose their cause. So they're strategic about their cause. They're strategic about saving their own skin. How many congressmen's kids go on the front lines? So they're winning. They won. They've got the power. They've got the money. They're sitting and sipping champagne while people are out there fighting in the trenches for them. Do you want to be the one fighting in the trenches? I don't want to be the one sipping champagne either, but I do want to be the rational one who has a quality life, a meaningful life, and a life of contribution to society in a positive way. Instead of somebody who gets rolled over, run over by a tank and then forgotten about by everybody but the family and didn't further the cause at all. I'd rather find the most effective thing that I can do to further my cause. The most effective thing. What's the most effective thing that I can do? And rarely it's being a martyr. It's very, very rare that really counts and that really works, and I don't think that's working in Palestine. So anyway, here we are, we're 30-minute mark. Thank you so much for listening. Please, if you have some comments later, whether it's in agreement or whether it's educating me about something that I really got wrong, I'm happy to know. I want to learn. This is an ongoing discussion. Half an hour ago, I started talking. Every day, I'm going to do my best to be right on time and discuss a topic that's related to this concept of how can we love ourselves, how can we love others, how can we have a better world in the future. And this Palestine-Israel thing is a great example of a big, complicated problem that we have, that we can learn and we can grow. And hopefully in the future, we're going to know what to do. It's going to help us as a human family grow and learn what to do in a situation like this so that we can put an end to it, so that we can have more peace in the future and have better lives for everybody. Okay, this is Matthew from Love Buddy. Thank you so much. I love you. Have a great day.